It's a frank reminder for the Premier.
Gladys Berejiklian, as the Transport Minister, as the Treasurer and now as the Premier, does not support manufacturing in this state, and she does not support it in this town.
The local MPs and angry workers making their presence felt as a Senate inquiry into the nation's rail industry held a public hearing in Newcastle. Their main issue, why an estimated 1,500 local jobs were lost after the state government opted to build its new trains overseas.
Too many jobs have gone overseas because of state governments doing the wrong thing in purchasing their trains from Korea and China and other places when we could make them here in Australia.
Local companies say while most of the financial damage has already been done, it's not too late to turn things around.
The industry really has almost ceased to exist, but it's still salvageable, but it's going to need financial assistance from the federal government to make that happen.
The Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter says building the trains locally would be more expensive and that the unions haven't said where that money would come from. The Senate inquiry's findings are expected in October. Alex Heinke, NBN News.
We're also looking at street beautification, so making it a very inviting place to visit, do your shopping, groceries, go out for dinner. It has so much potential here in Wallsend.
Sharps is the final city nursery, the last one standing, weathering the storm created by Bunnings, Masters and growers markets. 30 nurseries have closed in the Hunter in the past 15 years. And while this family business continues to survive, today owners revealed they've decided to uproot and prune their operation.
We're going to relocate. We need to shrink down in size. You've probably noticed around Merewether the gardens are shrinking now in favour of bigger homes and villas. So we thought it was time that we condense a little bit and still offer the same services.
It's a business firmly planted in the history of Merewether.
The nursery's been here 89 years and it was originally owned by the Atkins family.
The Sharps are in the process of selling to a Newcastle developer who plans to build 12 townhouses, appropriately called the Oasis.
He wanted to preserve the tradition and he also got me to advise on the gardens.
Meanwhile, the nursery will move to a former news agency which has an outdoor area at the southern end of Derby Street in about 6 weeks.
I had one lady standing there crying and I said, look, we're going to be still around. Big decision. We feel really sad, but, at the same time, I think it's time.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Rob Buki reckons he loves his city, but is having a bit of a whinge about whinging. Taking aim at everything from the famous fig trees to the current supercars furore, he's questioning our attitude towards change.
Just seeing all the protests on TV, it's just a very Novocastrian thing to protest, so I thought I'd write a protest song about protesting.
Set against a backdrop of iconic Newcastle locations, the clip has chalked up nearly 15,000 YouTube views since its release last week.
I knew the song was going to cause some controversy. I've had about half the feedback has been positive and half the feedback's been absolutely negative.
Rob says the main point of the video was to make people laugh, but he's pleased it's also got them talking.
If you have to be all English teacher and find the point of the song, I think it's time to move on and embrace change in Newcastle.
Even if the message is lost, one thing that may catch on is a new dance move to show Novocastrian pride. It's called the pigeon. Okay, tell us how to do the pigeon.
So to do the pigeon, you need to get your chest puffed out and get your wings back and forwards like that.
Like this.
They're our most vulnerable patients. Little Mabel McClelland was among the paediatric intensive care unit's first admissions, one of hundreds of precious young lives to be saved each year.
It's exceptional, amazing. I've always thought it was, the best place for the children in the area to be.
The 1-year-old was critically ill before the new facility helped her and her family.
It did feel like a little bit of a home away from home for the week.
The 8-bed unit was officially opened today by the state's health minister and senior staff at the John Hunter Children's Hospital.
This is a fantastic day. I walked into the new paediatric intensive care unit and I said, wow.
Among the features, space for parents to stay overnight comfortably.
How fantastic is it that a worried mum or dad or grandma or carer can actually sleep in the room with the child who's ill? I think this is wonderful.
350 children and young people will be treated each year from as far as the Queensland border. Previously, critically ill children and adults were in the same ICU or even sent to Sydney.
Now we have a dedicated physical space which is more intimate and more private for them, that allows them to be separated from the adults and from the trauma.
Meanwhile, the minister said he's considering other sites for a new Lower Hunter hospital, following calls for it to be built next to the Hunter Expressway rather than the preferred site at Metford.
I am looking at the arguments both ways and discussing it, challenging, if you like, the bureaucracy to see whether it is. But I have heard that message and happily looking at it.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
He's quickly become a fan favourite and has made no secret of his rep ambitions. Now Nathan Ross's tireless commitment and enviable work rate has paid off.
So to look down at my wrist, and if I ever felt myself slackening off, it was a reminder of where I want to be and what I want to do as a player, and to get selected for City, it's an honour. It's also vindication for a man Wayne Bennett once said would never play NRL. I don't really know how to articulate or put it into words. It's probably feelings that I haven't had. It's the highest accolade as an individual I've had in sports. Ross has plenty of passion for City versus Country, a fixture some clubs have been reluctant to nominate their players for. people can try and dial down this event as much as they want, but they're not going to take the shine off it. To represent football at any level should be the goal of all players. I'm just going to come in with an open heart and an open mind and try and learn as much as I can and take that knowledge back to Newcastle and hopefully use that knowledge and help give it to the boys and make Newcastle a strong team again.
In another show of confidence, Knights teammate Paulie has also been named for City, having not played a single first-grade match this season after dislocating his hip in an horrific car accident.
I wasn't supposed to be back to around 15, so having that quick recovery and getting back on the field and enjoying my football, and I just thank everyone for helping me out, man. That's how I got back real fast.
Promising signs all round for the struggling Knights, with Sam Stone, son of former coach Rick, named in the junior Kangaroos squad. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Ryan and Belcher had already claimed top spot before the last day, holding an unassailable 24-point lead. Just for good measure, they won the final race anyway.
It's a hard position actually when you've already won. You don't know, in terms of racing or how hard you should push. And for us, it was really light out there. We just made some good decisions.
The Aussies were never outside the top 5 throughout the regatta, despite early challenges from the Rio bronze medal winning Greek team. Japanese crews also provided a challenge, and that's good news for Ryan and Belcher. They'll train together a lot in the lead-up to the Tokyo Games.
I think that's the biggest factor that can get you going and into the training, and I think that's a real credit to their team. There's lots of them up there, and they're going to set the bar high for everybody else to try to chase them, I'm sure, coming to Tokyo. For us to work with them a little bit, it's great for us, it's good for them, and a long way to go, but so far so good.
Coming off their first win of the season on Saturday night, a convincing 5-2 victory over the Sydney Bears, the Newcastle North Stars were in full flight. Battling the Brave for the first time since last year's grand final, there was no love lost. Canberra, led by former Newcastle coach Rob Stark, opened the scoring. The North Stars were quick to level it up. In a seesawing match, the teams couldn't be separated after 3 periods. Fortune eventually favoured the Brave in a shootout, former North Star Brian Bales with the winner. 2 of the Chopu Tahiti Challenge has been described as one of the most incredible days in competitive bodyboarding history, and it's not hard to see why. Newcastle great Garth McGregor mastered the heavy tubes to progress through to the decider. No such waves in the final, with McGregor swallowed up by the famous Tahitian swell.
Over the moon. Didn't sort of have this in mind, but just come here to have a good time, and now it's really made it a real good time.
And Charlestown golfer Jake Higginbottom put in a strong showing at the $1 Million Asian Tour event in Taiwan. Leading after round 1, Higginbottom eventually finished at 11 under in a tie for 7th. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Good evening. First tonight to breaking news, and a woman has been flown to John Hunter Hospital following a serious accident involving an all-terrain vehicle north of Gloucester. Renee Feder joins us live. Renee, it's understood a 4-year-old girl raised the alarm.
Yes, that's right, Tash. Now, this accident took place at a rural property this afternoon, about 55 kilometres west of Taree at Bunduk. The woman was riding the Gator ATV with her 4-year-old daughter when it rolled down a steep embankment, trapping the 35-year-old by her legs. Remarkably, the young girl managed to escape and walk 500 metres back to her home, where she raised the alarm. After being pinned under the vehicle for more than 2 hours, she was then taken to hospital by the Westpac rescue helicopter. It arrived at the John Hunter a short time ago. The woman is believed to be in a stable condition.
Robert Shashati facing accusations his actions brought a tragic end to a young life. The 37-year-old was allegedly under the influence of methamphetamine when he crashed his car with 4 kids on board. His 7-year-old nephew Marcus was killed. In his opening address, Crown Prosecutor Peter Davies told the District Court jury witnesses allege Shashati was angry and aggravated, driving dangerously, revving his engine and throwing his arms around in an apparent agitated manner, before he veered off Madawi Road while overtaking traffic, slamming into a culvert allegedly at around 80 kilometres an hour. Defence barrister Bart Vasic told the jury the entire incident was tragic and that Shashati not only admitted to taking drugs, but also that he admits he should not have driven on that grass. It was dangerous. The jury was told the case rests on one issue still in dispute, and that is whether Shashati's driving was substantially impaired by the fact he was under the influence of a drug. The trial is expected to run for 5 days. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
It's a beautiful part of the world in the midst of a turbulent time.
Well, it is confusing, but that's part of the process of local government.
A recommendation for Dungog to voluntarily merge with Port Stephens Council was last night narrowly voted down. Instead, a motion was adopted to negotiate with Port Stephens and Maitland councils, plus the Boundaries Commission and the state government, and to conduct a poll of community members. Then this morning, that became the subject of a rescission motion.
So realistically, right at the moment, everything's just been put on hold pending the outcome of that rescission motion.
In the main street of Dungog, people are fed up.
All you hear is a bit of stuff that's repeated, and basically no one knows what's going on.
It's dragged on a long time, and it's come to a point with elections due in September. People would like to know which direction this town is heading.
We have absolutely no way we can stand alone. It's just, you can't even contemplate it.
And so the big question remains, can Dungog Council survive financially in the long term? Something the General Manager believes is doubtful.
With such a small staff and the growing pressures upon this council and the community, It's my view that in the long term, the financial sustainability is very questionable.
The rescission motion will be voted on in a fortnight. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Electricity and gas make up almost half of Western Aluminium's costs. It says its energy bills have doubled in the past few years, leaving it in serious trouble.
It's impacted our bottom line. It's decimated our any profit that we were making. And if it goes up further, I'd hate to think in future what will happen.
The issue has the Shadow Industry Minister fired up.
We can't have a situation where our vital industries, who are employing Australians in high-skilled jobs, being affected, being threatened by the failure of this government.
Local MPs today joined Labor's chorus of concern about job losses in the Hunter during the visit by Senator Carr.
This is the perfect example of a plant where jobs are at risk.
We need to make sure that we keep those jobs, and not only keep jobs, but we want to actually increase jobs in this area.
Here at Western Aluminium, management says if something isn't done to address this issue, and soon, it fears for the future of the business and its employees.
There has been a failure and it needs to be fixed. And that means action taken, not words.
Late today, the Energy Minister responded, saying the Turnbull government is taking action to ensure affordable and reliable energy as the country transitions to a low emissions future. Renee Feder, NBN News.
A quieter week at Knights HQ for Nathan Brown, and he's fine with that.
At the end of the day, all he has are 20-year-old kids, and as I said, these experiences are great for him, but would I have a different approach if I had a much more seasoned team that was looking likely to be a chance of winning a grand final? I would say my approach would be a little different.
8 of his players have now been named for rep fixtures.
Anytime the younger ones can go and mix with some top-end seasoned professionals, it's a great reward for us.
No selection more surprising than Paulie Pauli's City call-up after playing just 4 games, all in reserve grade, since his horrific car crash.
There's 2 ways to look at it, which is, from our point of view and Paulie's point of view, personally it's great. The excitement that Paulie showed or heard down the phone when I spoke to him was great, so he was really looking forward to it. But on the other hand, it shows also, what the city country's become.
One player who did miss out, Danny Levi for the Kiwis.
I think Danny not being there is going to be far better for his development, and his target should be more the end of the year.
Levi and the rest of the side will have a break of sorts. Brown says they'll be better for it, particularly Dane Gagai, who was today in a moon boot.
He's had a bit of an ankle problem, but the weekend off's probably been a great time for him.
Meanwhile, club great Matthew Johns has endorsed Newcastle, pursuing James Graham.
In my opinion, his impact would be so great in a short period of time and turning that club around. I reckon by the time he had 3 or 4 years there, I think he'd be as big a legend as Paul Harrigan. I think he could be the most important signing the club would ever make.
He's certainly someone we've inquired about. Canterbury's not very keen to let him go, probably for the same reasons he'd be so good for us. Whether that changes or not, I don't know.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It's nice to come back here and get back into the swing of things and step back up on the platform and see how it's looking for the year. So very excited.
Majority of this campaign so far, it's a completely different game now. You can't just go around the course sailing conservatively trying to get seconds and thirds and hoping to win the event. You're either going to win a race or you're going to lose a race. This thing is the whole start procedure, the dogfight as you will in the pre-start where you're trying to either in the World Series boats. Now our focus completely shifts to the pre-start where you're trying to either win the windward or the leeward end of the line or hook the other boat.
Yeah, it's feeling terrific. The funny thing is, I actually don't realise it until people ask me, which is a good sign.
Day one of Gregory Thompson's murder trial, the jury told graphic details of the murder of Michael Mode at his Cessnock home, witnessed by his former wife. Crown Prosecutor Brendan Campbell told the jury Mrs Thompson woke at 1 a.m. She went from the toilet to the laundry, and in the laundry she saw the accused stabbing Mr Mode. The Crown claims she ran to call police, but by the time she returned, Mr Mode was on his hands and feet and there was blood all over him. And as the stabbing continued, yelled, "Get help, get help." The Crown alleges Thompson then began walking towards his ex-wife, who fled to the street screaming, "Ring the police, my boyfriend is being stabbed by my ex." It brought to an end a messy divorce littered with threats and abuse. The jury was told in the days leading up to Mr Mode's death, the accused was charged and granted bail for breaching an AVO against his wife. The Crown claims it was in her statement given to police and ultimately to Thompson himself, which is how he found out about Mr Mode. Within 24 hours of learning of Michael Mode's name, Michael Mode was dead. Thompson's defence team, headed by barrister John Fitzgerald, told the jury it was his actions that caused the death of Mr Mode. That will not be an issue in this case, but the sole issue will be whether at the time of the act Thompson was suffering a substantial impairment. The trial is expected to run for more than 2 weeks. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
connecting shops and public facilities at Charlestown to the nearby suburb of Whitebridge and linking up to the Fernley track and beyond to Dudley. That's the vision of the Cycle Safe network, comprising riders, community groups and backed by the likes of the NRMA, which today put forward its plan for the Charlestown to Coast pathway.
It links so many destinations. It would be a wonderful piece of infrastructure. It's money that would be extremely well spent.
According to the group, the 4.7 kilometre stretch would be the first of many missing links in the region's cycle network. Cycle Safe says the proposal has the support of a range of organisations who believe it would be a community asset.
The Heart Foundation is really proud to be involved in this project because we can see that if people have got the infrastructure to utilise and physical activity is the end result, well then obviously heart health will benefit.
Not only is the group promoting health benefits, but safety as well. Whitebridge High is one of 5 schools which would be close to the path.
If kids are able to actually ride to school and come kind of through the back way and avoid this road completely, then there is a big safety gain for the students and for the school.
Now Cycle Safe is calling on Lake Macquarie Council to make the plan a priority. The council says it's keen to work with the group.
We're really passionate as well about expanding the shared pathway network and improving active transport throughout the city.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
They say laughter is the best medicine. Mix that with some well-deserved R&R and the results speak for themselves.
It makes me feel good about myself, and I like the fact that everybody here puts in such a big effort for everyone, not just myself.
From makeup and massages to even live music, more than 100 cancer patients were today treated to some much-needed time out. The Bold and Beautiful initiative employing pamper therapy.
You enjoying yourself?
Yes, I'm loving it, thank you.
I told everyone this morning that they're going to go out of that door at 2 o'clock feeling glamorous and pampered, and that's exactly what happens on the day.
And for cancer survivors like Julie Harris, the day is just as special.
I look at all the people around and we've got something in common to share, and it's wonderful. It's really nice, yeah.
Bold and Beautiful is now in its 13th year. Around 80% of today's guests were first-timers. The volunteer-run event has become ingrained in Newcastle's calendar.
Some of the beauty colleges and the TAFE, they actually write it into their curriculum each year for the students, and so it becomes part of what they do every year for us.
Talia Sav, NBN News.
Josh is uncompromising. You know what you're going to get out of him every week from what I've seen of his games, and young Nick's a young guy on the rise. So we're just hoping that they add to the squad.
And then the rest all came from this speedster out of dummy half little opportunity. He races away for 2. He just couldn't.
Pointing had never driven at Symmons Plains before round 2, and the weather in Tasmania made life tough.
The first 2 races didn't go so well. I found myself in the kiddie litter quite a few times, but I got the hang of it towards the end of the weekend. I ended up 9th in race 4, which put me in 12th for the weekend, which wasn't too bad.
Charlotte has since been watching YouTube clips to prepare for her next assignment at Barbagallo, a race she wasn't sure she'd get to.
It was almost looking like we weren't going to get there, but Laser Electrical have come on board, which has helped us out heaps. And I've never been over there, so it's another new track to learn.
Currently leading the Women's Championship, Charlotte believes she's earning respect from more seasoned drivers.
By the end of the year, I'm hoping to be in the top 10 in the championship, which that is my ultimate goal for the year, and I'm sitting 9th at the moment, so it's looking good.
Teenager Sage Murdoch is also looking to make a big improvement when he competes in Perth in the Formula 4 series. He had no luck during his debut at Sandown last month.
Some great players have come through here. They've gone on to international duties for our country. Jordan Thompson recently was part of this, as well as James Duckworth. But past players like Todd Woodbridge, Wally Masseur, Jason Stoltenberg have come through there.
Karen Thompson spent the entire day in the witness box testifying against her former husband, accused murderer Gregory Thompson. She described the final years of their 2-decade-long marriage as chaos and littered with arguments that he would always win. Under questioning by Crown Prosecutor Brendan Campbell, Mrs. Thompson said following their separation in 2014, the accused became obsessive, bombarding her with calls and sending threatening texts. Gregory Thompson is accused of stabbing her new boyfriend, Michael Mode, to death at his Cessnock home in March 2015 in front of her. Mrs. Thompson broke down several times while on the stand, including when telling how she was knocked unconscious and needed 5 stitches to her head after the accused allegedly threw her against a door frame when he found her in the family home looking for her belongings. Thompson has pleaded not guilty to murder. His defence team argues he was suffering an abnormality of the mind at the time. Mrs. Thompson is expected to return to the stand tomorrow. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Indigenous women have waged a 7-year battle to protect this sacred site. They fear any day now the green light could be given for a housing estate to be built up to 20 metres away from the Butterfly Cave. The Awabakal Land Council is calling on the Environment Minister to take action.
I believe she's our last resort. If she doesn't step in at ministerial level, it's done and dusted. It's over.
A revised construction management plan currently sits with Lake Macquarie Council, which, if approved, will disregard the group's request for a 100-metre buffer zone, despite an online petition of more than 60,000 signatures.
It's only natural that children and adults will wander down to have a look. It's not a play area. It's a very, very special place for Aboriginal women.
The Office of Environment and Heritage says it's an offence to harm or desecrate an Aboriginal place, with the maximum penalty for a corporation being $1.1 million. Developer Roche Group was unable to comment today. Talia Sav, NBN News.
They've been friends for years, but come Saturday night, Kurt Fernley and Christy Dawes will be in opposing camps.
I'm quite excited about it.
I'm terrified.
Used to putting their strength and endurance to the test, in a change of pace, they'll be showing off their persuasive skills in a comedy debate, raising money for the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. Each year, it selects a group of young people to take part in the New York Marathon. The aim for participants to promote exercise and a healthy lifestyle in their communities. It all happens under the watchful eye of marathon great Robert D. Costella.
I went and saw what they were doing in Thursday Island, and it went from a community that was pretty sedentary. 2 people participate in the IMF in the marathon project, and they come back and now there's 100 locals from the Thursday Island group that are week by week running 5 to 10 Ks, and it's really about grassroots change of community.
Their assigned topic, men are better athletes than women, is sure to ruffle a few feathers, but both teams are feeling confident.
The girls have had quite a lot of planning, quite a lot of lunches, quite a lot of back and forth emails, and I think we can safely say we're going to hammer these boys.
You know, I think that it's going to be a very funny night, and I've got a few ideas of where we're going to run, but I think that I've got the easy argument, so I'm all over it.
For tickets, visit the Foundation's website. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
The last minutes of a long wait. Today marked the 9th time Muso's Corner has held its May the 4th sale, and some went to extremes.
Camping out in a swag, tent, car, street.
David took a week off work to be second in line. He's been here since last Friday.
It's a bit of a stretch, 6 days on the street. There's some interesting characters. But, you know, for the love of a fine instrument, you know, getting a $4,000 guitar for $400, it's well worth it.
At 8:05, the doors finally opened, sparking a mad few seconds as customers found items for themselves and their friends. David struck gold.
After 6 days of camping out and to get a beautiful, beautiful guitar like this, I'm just not going to come down for days.
It's all part of Muso's Corner's community approach to business. It's seen them through 50 years in the West End of Newcastle, which can be a tough area for retailers.
We started off fairly small and just moved with the times and tried to be a little bit different, you know, make an experience, and we've stayed here.
Whatever the secret, it's clearly working. Alex Heinke, NBN News.
They come together in a suburban hall, individuals sharing the challenges of living with Parkinson's, and today they're warming up for something special. This is Dance for Parkinson's, a worldwide movement that's now arrived in Newcastle. This group started meeting 6 weeks ago, but a lot has happened in that time, and it's much more than just physical therapy.
It's a lifesaver, a real lifesaver, because you can be, when you've got a disease like this, you can be isolated.
Very close friendship arise over time, and you have an opportunity to speak to people who are walking the same path as you.
Parkinson's is a progressive neurological disease that affects movement. The class is designed to help with coordination.
The bonus above fitness perhaps is that you have that music, you have that cognitive sequencing of movement. It's not really about mastering the movement so much as just really embracing those movements and being with those friends and people that you know so well, and looking forward to that each week.
70,000 Australians are living with Parkinson's, and the impact of the disease will be discussed at a major international conference in Newcastle from tomorrow. This group will be watching closely.
Like all other parkies, we're all interested in the next development and the next phase and to find a cure for Parkinson's.
In the meantime, Robert says he'll keep moving.
Well, I never was a great dancer to start with, but I think I did okay.
He's defied critics his whole career. Selected for City Country this week, now Nathan Ross can dare to dream even bigger.
Is he good enough to play State of Origin?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he'll play quite well this week. I think the step up in class will help Nathan Ross. I've always been an admirer of his. And again, if you had said that to me probably 2 years ago, it would have been, I don't think so. But, you know, what he does for Newcastle and, you know, the vibe coming out of Newcastle, he's a terrific bloke and adds plenty to their team.
Ross's Knights teammate Sam Stone is in Canberra, preparing to run out for the junior Kangaroos.
I didn't really expect to play for my country ever, you know. I thought that if I did that would be the ultimate goal in my rugby league career, and to achieve that so young's, very exciting.
The two sides last night visited the War Memorial ahead of the Anzac Test.
Builds up the excitement and the tension a little bit, and, you know, it's good. I haven't really been to Canberra, and the War Memorial is, you know, a place that's very historic, and I'm very proud to come and see it.
Newcastle's rep contingent was busy all round today, with the Mataudias swamped at Samoa's Fan Day, while Rebecca Young received a similar reception with the Gillaroos.
It's so exciting to be here with the girls today, just to be able to show them that if they put in that hard work, this is where they can be.
Young will start off the bench against the Ferns tomorrow. One of the more experienced players in the squad, she's just glad to be there.
I was a little bit surprised. I didn't know what sort of format or dynamics of the team they were going to go for. So yeah, but I've been training since November with the girls in the squad, so to be a part of this is amazing.
With 7 wins and 1 loss in the Waratah League, the Mustangs sit in top spot alongside the Sydney Comets. That record includes a satisfying victory over Newcastle.
Very satisfying, man. That was a game that we really wanted to win, and we went out there and handled business.
This weekend, Maitland plays the Sea Eagles for the first time in 2017. Despite a 4-4 record, Manly is a perennial finals contender and will fancy its chances.
If teams are still underestimating us, then, you know, good for us, bad for them. But I would say that we're one of the top teams to look out for. I mean, that's what the ladder says.
The Mustangs are hoping for a big crowd as they raise money for the Hunter Breast Cancer Foundation.
This weekend has a bigger significance because of what it's about. So I would really hope that everybody gets out and shows their support, and we're winning, so that helps too.
In the women's division, Susie Batkovic has overcome a back injury and will play for Newcastle against the Bears on Saturday at Broadmeadow. The WNBL MVP missed the loss to Manly last week and will look to rediscover the form she showed on debut against the Bruins. Darren Ray was involved with the first local horse to win the mile back in 1993. More than 2 decades later, he's hoping Better Than Max can help him repeat that success.
We drew 1, which will be very good. Better Bet Black's out of gate 3. He's a very quick beginner. So we'll hopefully sit behind him and hopefully pull out top of the straight and be somewhere abouts.
These days, the Group 3 race is named in honour of former club CEO Ross Gigg.
Ross did a lot for this club, so it's a great honour to have a horse race in this race for him.
Another local runner, Franco Storm, was bought for just $2,000. He burst onto the scene last year with a Group 2 win at Menangle. The family connections have big plans for the 3-year-old. Trained by Neil Thompson and owned by his wife Robin, this Saturday it'll be driven by their grandson Jackson.
It is a family affair, and it would be nice if he could come off and win a derby like his great-grandfather did. So that would be icing on the cake.
Is there extra pressure knowing that it's your wife's horse?
Well, no, she doesn't. She doesn't put much pressure on me, but she likes collecting money. That's the main thing.